Ivan, commercial mortgage-backed securities really emerged as a very significant source of financing in 2004, 5, 6, and 7. But that market essentially collapsed during the financial crisis. It's come back into its own over the last couple of years, but I know that there are also concerns about how it is that we'll manage through a significant number of required refinancings in 2016 and 17. Where do you see us in the CMBS market today?
Well, at this present time, the CMBS market is dead. The volume has dried up. The ability to originate loans effectively is almost impossible. There are some issuances being done, but they're very erratic and very uncertain. And it's a problem because not only do we have to continue with the level of CMBS issuances that have been over the last couple of years, but we actually need more done because the number of loans maturing from the 2005, 2006, and 2007 are almost double. So we really need double the capacity. So that is going to be a problem.
Now, we have seen spreads widen out for deals over the course of the last little while, and as you point out, there are real challenges in getting deals done. What do you attribute that to?
Well, it's not just spreads widening out; it's less proceeds, and in general, less type of assets that are being done. So it's really exponential. And that's really a result of the proposed or the risk retention rules that are going to be implemented at the end of this year.
So I want to talk a little bit about risk retention. You've raised it as an issue. We know that other participants in the market have also expressed concerns. Without getting into the very technical details, risk retention essentially requires the issuers of these deals to eat their own cooking. Let's say to hold some of the risk that they're introducing to the market. And I've heard various opinions about how significant a hiccup or a disruption it could be in December of 2016, early 2017 when it comes into force. What's your view on this?
Well, I think that the CMBS market historically has created a lot of issues in the marketplace. And I think these risk retention rules are created to try and avoid those complications that it's been created. So what we've had is really a distributed risk model where the issuers would originate these loans, package them, and just distribute the risk. And it wasn't an effective model. When you have the kind of delinquencies and disruption that's created out of that model, you need a new model. So the new model really is a risk retention model that whoever buys that risk piece has to keep that risk piece. So I liken it to the situation of, is it a used car salesman or am I an investor in an exotic car? Used cars, you distribute, you don't care how you sell them. If you're an investor in an exotic car, you better know what you're buying. So right now, the way the rules are proposed, the buyer has to maintain about 5% of the risk and he has to keep it. And the issuer is responsible if they don't. So therefore, every single loan has to be underwritten, not like the old model. And I think that's a better model. It's an adjustment, but the ramifications are difficult. There's a lot of uncertainty, and then there's a lot of cutback in proceeds, and people are being careful about what's being originated. Is that the right thing or the wrong thing? In my book, that's the right thing. You want to originate a good loan. You don't want to originate bad loans because you could find somebody to buy it. So I think long term, this is a better way to go. But the result is that the spreads are going to be wider. People are going to be more careful and selective. It's going to create better loans and more equitization in your loans, which will create better performance.
Is risk retention a better system than what we've had in the past?
In my book, risk retention is the right way to go. You're originating a better loan, it's going to perform better, you're going to have less disruption in the market, and it's just a better model.
One of the things that has happened over the last little while has been that there have been some legislative efforts. In early March, there was proposed legislation that moved through the House Financial Services Committee that would exempt single asset, single borrower deals from the risk retention requirements. In your view, is there potential for some real change in the implementation of risk retention before we reach late December, early 2017?
I hope there won't be a change, but I do see the single asset model being effective because what people will do is they'll originate the single model and they'll distribute it in pieces, but each asset will be evaluated independently rather than being pooled assets and people trying to figure out how the different pools affect delinquencies. At least they'll look at each asset on its own and evaluate it a little bit better. I do hope that there are some risk retention rules on the subordinate pieces on those single asset models.
Right. Now, as a last question with regard to CMBS, you mentioned that wave of maturities, loans originated in '06 and '07 that are coming due now in 2016 and 17. What's your sense of those loans? Is it going to be challenging for them to find new financing because they're not necessarily the best quality properties, or is it really just about making sure the financing is available and that there's liquidity in the market?
Well, I've been talking to a lot of the special servicers, and they're gearing up and they're starting to see a huge waves of restructuring and defaults. There's really no takeout for those loans. And that's for a couple of reasons, and I mentioned them a little bit earlier. Number one, spreads are up. Number two, proceeds are down. And for the marginal assets, they can't be put in pools. So I think you'll see those loans having to either be re-equitized because they can't borrow as much, or restructured. So there'll be a wave of that. But I think it's healthy. I think that has to be done to clean out the market and get it on its right footing.